What's up, everybody? I'm BX78, aka Brand. This is episode 61 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Deon this evening. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Feeling on it. Doing all right.
We have a couple things to get in tonight. We're going to talk about the spring season, our top five, our personal top fives for the spring season, because we have only technically most stuff is finished for the spring season. There's only one or two episodes left. One episode left for most of the stuff that came out a little later. So we'll get to that and kind of talk about what we think about that season as a whole. So as a whole this year for 2024, we're also going to talk about the summer season, which is coming up. There's a lot of shows coming out this summer season, and a lot of things that we're going to look at as well. And then we're going to go through the charts and go through Kaiju number 8, episode 11 as well, because that episode's actually really interesting. But first, let me give you my very small rundown of what happened with My Hero, because I have to say this right now. I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. Because I have to give My Hero some credit. They bounced back. This past episode for My Hero was probably one of the better episodes so far this season for them. And yet, it did a thing that I think it did it because the two characters you had in this episode, Dobby and his younger brother, or his other brother, fighting behind, or Dobby standing in front of the statue of All Might that's being melted by Dobby himself. It was so well done, so interesting. I don't know where this goes next from here, but it gave you a lot of flashbacks from other things from season 1, where Deco really, told him, "Hey, these are your powers. Do what you need." And the dialogue and it's the back and forth, like he tells Dobby, "Our family was crazy. Everybody was delusional, and yet that didn't matter. That didn't matter. It was just it was one of those episodes. I think you kind of go like, okay, we'll let them cook, we'll let them do their thing, and let's see what happens." I have to say, this is probably one of the few times where I'm like, okay, being slow is not a bad thing, but this is probably the only time where I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for being that slow at the beginning. Chris, am I off base by saying this?
No, Brad. Like the show really came around and surprised me with how they told this story. And and Deon, I think the way you described the background of a way a show should be showed, like a character background was described almost word for word in this episode.
It made me smile, but also just kind of gave me the understanding, like, okay, fine, y'all did your thing. Deon, have you caught up with My Hero? Are you caught up? And what did you think about this past episode, if you have caught up?
I actually put it on hold.
Oh, you did?
I put it on hold. After that last episode, I was like, nah, it's not.
Okay.
But now you guys got me curious.
Okay. I will say, Deon, it is. I was that way from the last episode, but this episode really kind of taking you back. If I had to give this episode a grade based on what it was about, I would have to give this like an 8.5. Because I think this episode gets back to what My Hero was good at. The character development, storytelling, referencing things from other seasons, other episodes, but also talking about the next thing coming up. So giving you the basis as well. Chris, what would you rate this next My Hero episode? You have to give a rating. If you had to give a rating,
I had to give it one. It would got a solid 8.
Okay.
8.
Oh.
That's it.
Do you think?
Because
No, go ahead.
Look, the show did really good, like I said, for tying up that one loose end. However, it did leave questioning about somebody else's. Like it did leave like if they tied up loose ends, I feel like they might have left a thread out there. So that's why I was gonna get that 8.
Yeah, there's a couple other threads they do leave kind of unsolved, but if they're going to answer things like they have answered them, I'm okay with that. But if they're going to keep answering questions, I'm okay with that. If they don't answer everything, I'm kind of worried because you're going to leave some small things out. Ultimately, this is going to lead us back into Deku and him back against Shigaraki. That's kind of the point they're getting at, but we'll see if that even materializes. But ultimately, also, what else could that curtail? What else could that curtail later on down the road as well? We're only episode 8 in. We still have 13 episodes of this season left, which is kind of insane to say. But yeah, I agree with the 8 point. Like I agree with your 8. I agree with my 8.5. There's a few things I think they're still going to have to figure out before we get to the ending. So Deon, I would say, ultimately, if you wanted to wait to let the season finish and then watch it all at once, I wouldn't blame you.
That seems like I'm curious now though to see how they played it out. But I wouldn't be mad at myself for waiting on to release another episode, the last episode. I mean, why not, right, at this point?
Yeah. I would have to give it. I would say give it 2. Like, see where the next episode goes. The next episode, if we say it's still good, then yeah, I can see you coming back to it. But I think a lot of people got kind of that weird taste in its mouth at first when it first came in, when the season first started. Now it's picking back up.
With me, what it was I have this extensive list of anime that I want to watch and catch up on. This season was loaded. But it's like if you don't give me that impactful episode that I know you can give me, and I know that this was an attempt to, I'm gonna have to put you on the back burner and just drop you down my priority list a little bit, you know.
Yep, I understand that.
We'll get into it when we talk about the summer season because I want to bring up a question to both of y'all. But it's kind of interesting you mentioned that because it seems like you're always catching up. It seems like you're never going to be caught up to where this current season's at for anime. You're either a season behind or a couple seasons behind. You're never current unless you're just going to skip things you don't want to go back and watch, or that you're interested in, but you're like, I'll put it on the back order. It reminds me of the things where people have a back catalog for games, and once they have a slower time period, they can go back to the back catalog and play through those things or watch those things over time.
Oh yeah. Especially if you're double dipping. Like I got anime and then I got the games too. Like Elden Ring just released the DLC. Yeah. Like Assassin's Creed releasing a new so my time is so limited. I gotta split it between these two worlds. It's hard to keep up.
Yes, it is very much so. But let me know what y'all think in the comments about the last My Hero Academia episode. I do think it's getting better. I also think too it is kind of weird because we got the announcement today from the I think it's either the manga company, the company that publishes the manga, or some. It was a couple news sites, but a couple different news sites that mentioned it, that the manga is officially ending on August 5th. The manga will be done serially as of August 5th. So which means the show can officially end within, I think, next one more season at that point. So we'll kind of see how this wraps all up. Because like you said, Deon, in a couple of prior episodes, that it does get more fighty, which I know too, learning from people talking about the manga. It does get more fighty. It gets more emotional. All that stuff kind of kicks in. But I think it's still going to take a bit of storytelling to get there. But let's get into
they got a long way to go.
Oh, very much so. Very long way to go. Let's get into this though. Let's get into our spring. Actually, I'll flip this around. Because we're gonna go in the chart after this anyway. If we do the spring one first, I'll go into our summer anime list so far. I'll ask this first of Deon. Out of everything we saw, because Crunchyroll put out the full list for what's coming out during summer, and then we also had Anime Corner have the list, and a couple other places have their list out. what is your biggest takeaway from the summer anime list, and what is something you're looking forward to the most? Sleeper and non-sleeper.
Let's see. That's a loaded question. I guess my biggest takeaway would have to be the fact that we've got so many of these. What would you call them? They're not. I guess like these main named animes, like Suicide Squad and Terminator and Rick and Morty and all of this stuff. We got a lot of that this year coming up.
Yeah, like, Nier Automata is on that list. Almost all at once. Yeah, there's a lot of big ones. Nier Automata will be on the list. There's also what else will be on there? There's a couple other ones. I think Tomb Raider is not in this season, but it's going to be coming soon.
But it's coming soon. Yeah, like we got a lot of that on this list. It's almost scary because it's like I'm already behind on like a lot. Like you said, it's hard to stay kept up with the things that you want to see, yet along with the stuff that you are interested in, but it's not as big of a name. So you don't just jump right into it. Well, me personally, I'm backwards. I'll go watch the sleepers before I watch the big name stuff. But yeah, it's a lot on this list. Just sleeper alone. Let me see if I can see I don't want to screw this name up. Tetsu.
Oh, I know. I know what you're talking about.
Tasuketsu?
Yes.
Tasuketsu. It's supposed to be like a survival anime. I want to see that. I wonder if it's gonna be like Dojo. And it's gonna be interesting to see how they do something 2024 survival-wise. But there's so many on this list that are not name brand popping that are gonna, I feel like, do very well, and that's what I'm very interested in seeing, how these sleepers actually wake up.
Okay. Chris, same question to you. What is your biggest takeaway from the summer list? And then what is like I asked Deon, what is that big sleeper and that even name brand one that you're kind of looking out for? What is those ones you're looking out for that you're kind of interested in?
Okay, so first of all, I am surely surprised at the massive, all the shows that are coming out. It's a lot of shows. And the fact that it's interesting just to see how many of these, if any of these shows, if any, are going to try to take the new King of the Hill spot. That's what I'm looking for. Which one of these shows is going to step out and be, like, this is the show that we going to have about 5 or 6 seasons, and it's going to go down.
I was going to ask what you meant by King of the Hill. I was going to ask what you meant by King of the Hill, but you gave me the answer. 5-6 seasons, kind of keeping. Okay. All right.
Now, as far as which shows I am looking forward to, so okay, so and you said like main name
things, but also like sleeper hits. So like, give me 1 or 2 main name things you might be looking forward to, but give me the sleeper hits more, because those sleeper hits are the things that people are going to be more interested in.
Oh, my main name is going to be Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest. I'm excited to see it. Yeah. I'm really excited to see them come back here. Like, bro, because we were told at the last season that there was going to be no more Fairy Tail. Like, and I was like, dang, man. And I mean, they ended the show on a good note, too. I mean, like, it was a good show. So the fact that y'all bringing it back almost gives me the vibes of as if I would have heard a new Dragon Ball Z series coming out. That's how I feel about it.
I jump for joy when I check the thing every day to see when it's coming out.
Exactly.
That is coming out July 7th. by the way. There's actually, it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same day as the VTuber one I'm interested in. It's also the same day as the one Restore Wands and Swords, Tower of the Gods, which is actually something that's coming back itself. That's season 2 for that. My Dear Friend, which actually has been talked about. There's been a couple of YouTube things I've seen about it, and like people talking about that show on Twitter, and like the people who make the show on Twitter talk about it. That seems really interesting. It's gonna have a little bit of competition with other things, but I think Fairy Tail will have that fan base to keep it rolling.
Right now, I don't see Fairy Tail having any competition. Right now.
Let me ask y'all this. Is it bad to think of Fairy Tail and Tower of God as sleeper animes?
No.
No. I will
That's the category I got them in.
I will say Fairy Tail's more Fairy Tail's more well known between the two. And I think most people know what Fairy Tail is. Probably not seen it. Probably not everybody's not seen it, but they know the name. I think Tower of the Gods is more that sleeper one that's not, because the first season of Tower of Gods came out a year ago now, or 6 months ago now.
No.
Or was it
Tower
earlier?
of Gods in like 01, 02, I think.
Oh, so this is season 2. That's why I asked that question. They say season 2 on here.
Well, not like 01, 02. I'm thinking like 21.
Oh, 21. Okay, so not that bad. It's about 3 years. So yeah, it's just I think Fairy Tail's been around so long. It's kind of like in that, for me, Fairy Tail's in that Bleach level, or even a Dragon Ball Z level of people know about it. It's been around for a while, but it finally came back to prominence, back into something after a while.
Brandon, might I dare say you've never seen Fairy Tail?
That's one. That's on there. That's one on there I've never seen. I know of the show. Seen pieces of it. Like I've seen clips and things. Fruit Basket's also on that list. If you want to know what that is, because I know friends in college that watch that.
Yeah, screw Fruit Basket. You've never seen Fairy Tail?
Also on the same level as Black Butler, Deon. I've never seen Black Butler, so that's also kind of that same realm. Yes.
I mean, Black Butler is it's a taste, but you've never had the power of a full belly. You've never seen.
No.
I gotta excuse myself for a moment.
Brandon, Fairy Tail is almost as old as One Piece.
So okay, I have a question.
They have episodes together.
But it's funny, if it's almost as old as One Piece, I have a question then. So my theory was right. It's been around a long time. When was the last episode before this season's gonna air? When was the last episode that really aired for it, Chris?
Ooh, there's a lot of episodes though.
Yes, and unlike One Piece, they only came out like every other season or so.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a couple years, but we also got Eden Zero, which was like a spinoff.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's yeah.
And it's
so
funny.
The studio will
still be making it.
As in, like, they were still busy making animes in the same style. Because when you look at Eden Zero, they said that the story has no concept of Fairy Tail, even though everybody kind of already pieced together where Fairy Tail comes in at. But they have some characters.
He literally walks around with Happy, bro. Like, it's a Thomas version, but it's Happy. Like,
yeah, it's Lucy and Happy. It was Lucy and Happy, like, for real.
So I have a question for both of y'all then, because that's an interesting take. Then I remember a couple seasons ago, we were it was the same season that the Bleach season came out, and Deon pretty much said it was one that he was so happy to see it come back. That's why I can't call it sleeper, because if you know of the Fairy Tail series and know what they've done, that's the crazy thing about it, because Fairy Tail has that fan base of like, oh, they coming back? Okay, cool. I have something I know what I'm watching. Same with Black Butler. Same with there's a couple things like it. it's insane because I think that's going to be the scary thing. Because that's the only thing about the season. That's the only thing about the season I think it's going to be interesting. You have that. You have Nier Automata, which is going to get second season. The first season of Nier Automata was actually pretty good. You have you also have things that are on my list. Like for the sleeper stuff, I think that VTuber one's going to be really interesting. Granted, I'll say this with all my respect, I do watch a lot of Twitch streams of people who do VTubing for a living. So yes, it is kind of I'm gonna be kind of one of the few people like, I wonder how they're gonna really make this make sense, because it's gonna have to make some sense, or you're gonna really lose people. But like I'm looking forward to plus size elves. That's an interesting one that they're using a very interesting thing, the plus size community, that kind of stuff, using elves in that sense and making it an interesting story out of that. But also, like, I think the other ones on my list, I looked up the trailer for Bob Earth earlier when we were kind of just talking off before stream. That's one I think that's kind of like the way they're kind of touting that is more like she's really strong, but also she doesn't want to be in this world. She just cares about her own thing. Interesting concept.
Well, see, I feel like Wistoria, I don't know if it'll be a sleeper or not, but I remember seeing the trailer, and I was thinking this kind of sounds like what MASH is.
Good or bad
a little
MASH?
Bit, but however, it's supposed to be a serious tone. It has a more serious tone.
Okay, that's fair.
So like a better version of MASH? Is that what we're expecting here?
That's what from what I saw.
That's what they're kind of telling.
Trailer, yeah.
Okay.
MASH with a guided plot.
Ouch! 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 Well, you're not wrong. You are not wrong.
I'm down for
that. We also have like Ocean Ko is coming back for season 2. The first season of Ocean Ko is like really hard to watch because it's one of the sadder shows. Not sad in the sense it can make you cry. The story they tell is very deep. Like
drama driven.
Yes, it is very much so. I'll put something else on this list that I think is a sleeper for me. My wife has no emotions. I think it's gonna be interesting. How you tell that story? How are you gonna tell somebody about who has no emotions, but they're like that? That stuff is fun to me. I will say the only big hitters I'm looking forward to, and it's weird to say this because I just want to do it for my curiosity. I think Suicide Squad I'm looking forward to, ultimately because I've never seen it. I've seen part of the first Suicide. I've seen the first Suicide Squad movie. I never saw the second, and I never saw Birds of Prey. So that's just one I want to see how they're going to handle that. The other one.
Oh, that's why you're interested. You haven't watched the movies.
I haven't seen it. I've only seen the first movie, and I didn't really. The first movie, I kind of like.
You. Seriously, good for you.
Way to not waste your life.
True. Fair enough. And then the other one is Terminator. Terminator Zero. I think that the Terminator one's going to be the one I think I'm more inclined to be more critical of, because I think Terminator is such an iconic series. It's going to be hard pressed to give that story some levity. And you said you're calling it Zero, so which gives me then when you put Zero behind a title, normally for me that gives me the indication it's a prequel. Normally that gives me indication it's a prequel. But in this case, I don't know if they're going to actually do a prequel or it's going to be something else.
But here's the thing, Brandon, about Terminator and that title Zero. Technically, every movie is Terminator Zero.
Pretty much. That's the other problem.
They all go back to the beginning, essentially.
That's the other problem. So it really doesn't make much sense. But hey, the question I brought up with this.
I'm looking forward to it. Oh my goodness, there's a lot on this list.
There's a lot. There's almost. I think me and Chris counted one night. I think it was last night or the night prior. We counted the list. It was like I got to like 35 before we got finished. We only had like a third of the way through.
Right. We counted like 35 to 37 shows, and that was just in the first week.
Like the first week and a half.
Man.
We got a lot.
Yeah, the Elusive Samurai.
Yeah. Blue Samurai's on there.
Goodness. Ocean talking a plus size elf card fight. What?
I have to ask this because I heard a YouTuber talk about it. I heard other people talk about it. It seems like they said this season's kind of slow, or this anime seems gonna be kind of slow. Based on this, I don't think so, but I think the only reason it's gonna be kind of slow because a lot of this is sleepers. A lot of this stuff is new.
It's a bunch of sleepers, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bunch of sleepers.
So Goku's getting her second season this summer. Yeah. Sorry. It's a bunch of sleepers.
You're good. You're good. So my question to you is then, if this is a bunch of sleepers, do you think a lot of people are going to try to catch up from the spring season and watch less of the summer? Or is it one of those things where the spring was kind of not so strong, but strong, where summer's going to be kind of boring, and then it's basically just waiting until we get to winter again, to get to winter or fall again, or fall in this case. I'll start off with Deon for that one.
I think that depends on the watcher. Your casual after work watcher, during the meal watcher, they're gonna have to catch up on the spring during the summer. Because if you wait for the fall, you're gonna be back behind again. But you got those bingers who will pick a day and just go crazy to catch up so that they can make it for the summertime. Because there's some nice titles coming out in the summer that people are going to want to be interested in, or we'll just casually come across and be like, oh, that looks cool. Let me watch that. That's how I find like 60% of my anime.
Okay.
But you have those people, and I feel like, once you get that 1 or 2 day binge in, now that all the seasons will be over and you don't have to wait for the episodes to come back out, you'll be able to catch up pretty fast.
Okay. All right. Chris, same question to you. Do you kind of have the same belief as Deon in that sense, or do you have a different take on it?
No, I mean, my take is pretty similar because, take shows like for me. I only have a limited amount of time for me to watch shows amongst everything else I do in the evening before bed. So I'm either going to spend my time catching up on keeping current on new shows that I really, really like, or I'm going to spend that time catching up on shows that I don't like that I can just binge watch. So I have more time to binge watch the shows if there's nothing I like versus shows that I'm going to flip on, watch 2 or 3 different shows. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
So, I'm sure there are other people that are like me in that sense.
The only reason I bring it up, do y'all remember last year when we got to the summer season, and summer season was kind of so boring to the point where people were like not really caring. And then fall came along, and fall was like, okay, they picked it back up. Cool. We're good again. And it just felt like when spring was hot as it is, and when spring was hot as it is last year, and then summer kind of just fell off and nobody really cared, and then fall came back, it felt like people just kind of took a break from anime and didn't really watch. So then there wasn't much conversation around it. There wasn't much of the Twitter or even Instagram conversation around it. It just kind of was like, this summer season can kind of just sit, aside for a bit. I think the thing I'm thinking mainly about is it's like, I think this weird thing about this, like Deon mentioned at the beginning, and I think you mentioned too, Chris, it's funny that a lot of these sleepers, if they hit, I think you both kind of mentioned, but I know Chris mentioned it first. If a lot of these sleepers hit, you have some shows that could keep going and be something later down the road. It's kind of insane to think about, because that means these shows have a reason to continue. If they have a fan base behind them, if they have people willing to watch it.
Then, Brandon,
mm-hmm.
How wild would it be if we came up with an anime season where the majority of shows were all season 2s or season 3s?
Ooh, it's hard pressed me to say yes to that. I would love to see it, but I think you'll never will see it. You'll never see a full season, or even almost half, 2/3 of the season full of season 2s and season 3s, because I think that would also give you competing fan bases. And on the other side of that too, you would also have the problem of like, do I watch this one or do I watch this one? Do I watch on High Dive or do I watch on Netflix or do I follow Hulu? I will say this right now, and I'm not gonna think this is a thing that should be fixed. But between all the services, they need to get kind of better communication with things, because watching Go Lose Ranger and Yokohama Family on Hulu gave me the understanding that he should just have the next episode posted on the site and just kind of like let it be waiting, so you can see what's gonna, like, the title and everything, and kind of see what picture is, kind of give you a little teaser. But also on the flip side, they do the one thing I don't really like, is they always have the Hulu logo right at the beginning, which doesn't really feels kind of weird. But on the flip side, I think Crunchyroll is a better thing of, oh, we put the skip button for a lot of things in the beginning of our shows. That's on the company side, not Crunchyroll side, basically. But at the same time, yeah, there's certain things you can't skip. So here you go. It's like, all right, fair enough. And then High Dive's just there. Like, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see where anime ends up, because I think having all these companies have different anime things is gonna be kind of crazy, because you have to have like 3 or 4 services now, and that's not even worth that for most people with the list we have.
I feel like that'll fix though the more mainstream the genre of anime gets.
Like, when you say mainstream, what do you mean?
Like, when you think of things to watch, most people think movies or TV shows. They're like, oh yeah, this streaming app is for movies. The streaming app is for TV shows. This is for anime. Is still kind of on that back burner. Still like a niche. Like, you still have to be one of those certain type of people to watch anime.
Okay.
Like, Hulu is not an anime app like Crunchyroll is. So when we look at anime on Hulu, of course there's not going to be the best, or they have skip buttons for, intros and stuff like that, because they really don't even know how to handle it. Like Netflix. But they do action movies very well. They promote them. They get the best shows. The timing of the shows come out when it's a new release. They release all the prequels, and they do those very well, because that's their niche. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years. Whereas anime is still new to everybody except for Crunchyroll and High Dive. But High Dive is still fairly new in itself.
Yes, it is. I don't know. It just feels kind of like now, because that's the only thing about this list I don't. I think between all the lists I've seen, this list, I think there's another. You can like look on a couple websites, and the list. I think you have a website, Chris, that you use that usually list out where it's going to be playing at. It's probably one of the best at it. But like, I think outside of that, you never really can understand where you can find some of these shows. Because like, I think Jellyfish premiered on High Dive, and I remembered I was like, I'm not going to go to High Dive just for Jellyfish. Not that I can wait. I don't know. I think that's going to be the problem. If we're getting this many shows in the season now, I think in the next couple of years, you're going to get to like almost 80 to 100 shows in a season. We're not even there yet. Which is even more insane.
Yeah. Another thing, too, I feel like anime is so saturated right now. There's so much going on. There's so many getting released that it's also, this isn't in defense of anybody, but it may be hard for them to keep up.
That part.
There's a million studios releasing that, content every day. Who do you talk to if you
new studios popping up too?
Yeah, new studios, and then you have your big names. You got your big names, A1 and all that. Like, you got your big names, but how do you, as a streaming service who isn't big on anime, like Hulu or HBO or even Disney, I guess because Disney is Hulu now, but how do you determine who to make these contracts with? Who to buy, streaming rights from? Because you don't know the fan bases.
No. You don't.
Of course, DBZ and One Piece and stuff like that, but like Chilling in Another World, Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, stuff like that, it has no fan base yet. So how do you determine whether or not you're going to get that? Of course, Crunchyroll is going to get it. Crunchyroll is King Supreme and knowing these things.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Once them and High Dive finally partner or at least start communicating a little better, it would be seamless. But
I think no, go ahead.
High Dive may want to take the competitive role and then get sunk under like Funimation did. But, how do you keep up with that as a third-party company?
I think the other thing that kind of this brings up, and it's something I kind of thought about myself, is just the fact that when you have all these new announcements coming left, right, and center, and then we just got an announcement for something else, and I thought was really interesting. Oh, we finally got the announcement, and funny we talked about that swords and wands. Oddly enough, we got the announcement that Magic and Muscles is going to make a season 2. That is confirmed. But we already kind of knew that, even though I think all three of us were like, it should kind of wait for a bit. We know it's coming, but wait a couple of years. It's one of the things that even like you mentioned, Deon, like you get announcements almost every day, almost every week about new anime coming back or new anime coming out. Or it's the cycle of how do you keep the content train rolling, but also how do you keep people interested in your product. So either way it goes, it's still not great for everybody involved. But I think the big thing with this is looking forward to this season, maybe season beyond. I think it needs to be better. I think they're finally getting better at the marketing side. I've seen more trailers on Twitter about new shows coming out in this summer season. Even trailers on YouTube, like look up the trailer for Bye Bye Earth, what I looked up on YouTube and stuff. The marketing has gotten a lot better for some of these shows that are smaller because they really put them out there, try to make them hit, see what's going to stick. Kind of thing.
Did you see how? I'm sorry. Did you see how they tried to ride the name of Solo Leveling? Like we don't know they were made from the same studio in the first place.
Yeah. But also, here's the thing. I don't blame the people who are making MASH or Solo Leveling. It's A1. A1's like, we're gonna use Solo Leveling to make sure MASH can stay relevant. Without that, MASH won't stay relevant.
But his point, ride his own coattail. MASH had a decent following. Like everyone knows who it is. You don't have to be like, from the studios who made Solo Leveling. No, they made MASH first, fool.
But that's the problem. They know that MASH is the lower of the both of those shows, and they know that they have to keep, if they want to keep MASH relevant, they have to say like Solo Leveling was the other thing they make, and people love Solo Leveling. That's not surprising. People like MASH, but season 2's kind of got bad. But we could be here all night talking about that. But I will say this: as we get into the finishing up the spring and talking about our top five for the spring. I think this will be one of the few times I'll say this, and I'll say it for the summer season. And I will say this: we all live in Texas, so this is going to be kind of weird for us to say. And with it being so warm outside, this is probably one of the few times you might get more fans to watch anime. A few times in the years, in a long time. It's warm across the country, but I think this is like, oh yeah, I'm not going to really do much outside. Too warm. You'd be kind of lucky to get, I think, a lot more fans during summer season, just people for trying things out, just seeing what's out there. Pick up
or at least people catching up.
That too. A lot of people catch up during the summer year. That's the one thing about summer season that is kind of good. You can catch up because there's not a lot going on, and most times people don't try to do a lot of things outside of vacations and things. very often. So they do try to, you can do ultimately catch up. But let's get into our top 5 for the spring. So basically, last time we did top 10. I only did top 5 because I thought we didn't cover everything over the spring period. We at least watched like 5 or 6 shows, between 6 and 7 shows mostly. So we'll go in. I'll start with Chris, and then we'll go down. And I'll do myself last. They don't have to be in any specific order, but Chris, what is your top 5 for your spring season?
Top 5 from this spring season. Yeah. Hold up. I got to pull up this list so I can make sure I say these names right.
Okay, no worries.
So, starting at number 5, I will give Kaijiu its props.
Okay.
Let's see. And at 4, I'm giving it to Konosuba.
Okay.
That was funny. 3, I'm giving it to Windbreaker.
Okay.
Number 2, Slime.
Okay.
And my number 1 so far is still Demon Slayer.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I only have 2 questions. 1, you don't have Jobless on the top 5, which is actually kind of surprising. And 2,
because I caught up with it. It was actually pretty thorough.
okay. And 2, I'm actually surprised you have Konosuba right in the middle. I thought Konosuba would be kind of higher for you.
No, bro, because I'm giving the other shows where they came in at. Like, the other shows really just beat it out.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That is fair.
Come on, Slime, bro.
Slime, Slime. So yeah, Slime's been good. So I can't. That's the one I was like, when you said Slime at 1, I was like, okay, I could see that. But also, I know you tried a Windbreaker early in the year too, and I think you said, but Windbreaker kind of fell. Yeah, Windbreaker too. So yeah, I get it. Deon, what was your top 5 for the spring would be?
Oh man, let's see. So, Killing in Another World.
Okay.
Seventh Prince, reincarnated as the Seventh Prince. Those 2 can be flipped 5, 4, 4, 5, depending on the episode.
Okay, so you have those 2. What else do you have?
I have. Who's in that 3rd slot? I'm gonna have to put Konosuba, Demon Slayer, Windbreaker.
Huh. Okay. The Konosuba doesn't surprise me now. You both have it 3. I'm not surprised that Chris has Demon Slayer in the top 2, but I'm surprised you have it in the top 2. Deon, why?
See, binged it, and it made more sense. When you binge it, it all glues together.
Okay.
Like it all,
Fair enough.
It feels warm, like a sandwich, like a good sandwich, like it's wholesome. It's not necessarily a steak and potatoes, but it do you right when you're hungry, you know.
Fair enough. So, it is weird because
comfortable with it.
It is weird to say that Demon Slayer is one of those ones where a lot of people didn't like this season. And I'll go back because a lot of people did not like the season. They thought it was gonna be boring as all get out. Here's the problem. Like Deon just said, you watch it all together. You binge watch it. It makes a lot more sense. But also, they were telling a story in the best way possible to adapt the 9 chapters of the manga, plus add new things into it. So I don't really think it was that bad. Ultimately, we also got the announcement of the fact that it is confirmed now after all the rumors, but it was pretty much confirmed now that we are getting the 3 movies for the Castle arc. So ultimately, you're getting what you want because the Castle arc is just a bunch of fighting and emotional storytelling.
Yeah, but you know what I realized too?
Go ahead.
If you really piece together this season, you could play this whole season like a movie.
Yes, you can. You can absolutely play like a movie.
Yep.
And that's the weird thing because I think that was the point. I think that was going to be the point at first, and then they just made it episodes, or they were going to make it episodes, but it feels like a movie because that last episode, which we'll talk about when we get to charts, the current episode we just finished, but the episode prior to that too, like my word, some of the things you did made, like Chris told me when we watched this last episode of Demon Slayer, movie quality.
Yeah,
I'm
not gonna lie though. I fell asleep my first watch on a lot of these episodes.
Like the first episode, or just first?
My first, like I said, I binged it. I didn't binge it first. I watched them as they came. I watched them as they were coming out, and I just couldn't really like commit to them.
Okay.
But like you said, that movie quality when you binge them, it really shows. Like you go from one after the other, it really shows.
Yeah.
And my detachment could be because I watched the sub and I'm a dub Demon Slayer person.
Most people are.
It could be there.
Because my friend asked me when it's going to be dubbed, and I saw it yesterday. I think yesterday, this morning. The dub comes out for Demon Slayer June 30th. So I'm like, it's coming out. It usually comes out a couple weeks before the end of the season. They'll start dubbing it in English. But yeah. So my top 5 is going to be interesting. I will put. I'm going to think about this for a second. I will put Goku Lucha Ranger at 5. I will put Yokohama family at 4. I'm gonna put Konosuba at 3. I agree with both of y'all there. Konosuba's funny, worth it. I'll put Demon Slayer at 2. And then my 1 is something neither one of y'all mentioned, but I have to put it here because it's just the way it is. I'm gonna be kind of sad to say this. I have to put God's Game You Play at 1 for me.
Ooh. Oh.
I was not expecting that at all.
It's between. It's between.
I was expecting you to say Vampire Dormitories. No.
Okay, ultimately, here's the thing. I finished Vampire Dormitories. I'm up to date now, and it got super weird for me, which is odd.
Yeah,
I'm usually okay.
I'm usually okay. Where we were mentally.
But it's funny. Because when they changed the tact of what happened to the main character, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see what happened. But then I watched the next 2 episodes, like, nope, doesn't work. But it's funny, that wasn't even in my reference point. The other show I had at 1, if I really was going to switch my tact, was Train to the End of the World. But the only problem is with Train to the End of the World, I would do it only because I think the storytelling in Train to the End of the World is interesting. Most people probably can't watch Train to the End of the World because it's so crazy. Because they just like, we're gonna do the crazy, we're gonna play with the crazy, and we're not gonna stop. That's the way thing with Train to the End of the World. The last episode is like, oh, we're just gonna play with the crazy fully. Don't care, don't really have a reason to care, but we're gonna have a cohesive story. The cohesive story makes sense, but still crazy. All right. But to me, ultimately, God's Game You Play does one thing I really appreciate. You told a story with a set of characters about playing games to beat the God's games, to get 10 wins. Ultimately, every step of the way, you added a new character. So you had the former God, you had our main character, who's the guy. You had the blonde-haired girl who was kind of not great at anything. She was okay, and then you had the purple-haired girl. Think about this cast here. They play off each other so well. The storytelling each time he got a new person to help him in the next game was really interesting. The last couple episodes where they do the whole poker room with the lady, the fact the first god comes back in the first episode and hangs out for the rest of the season pretty much outside the last episode. And then the last episode is basically just a love letter to like, oh, here's an RPG. Oh, and the only way you can beat this game, you have to 100% the game. Which basically saying you have to 100% a game that most people will 100% at least one game in their lifetime, just because they want to, because they enjoy it so much. That is something I can't. It's hard to tell a gaming story very well outside of No Game No Life. And I told Chris this when we finished the last episode.
I was just going to say that.
And the funny thing.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh no, you're good. I was telling Chris the last episode we watched. This is basically if they took No Game No Life and did a season 2. This is probably the best progression of a season 2 I could see, to where ultimately gods take over, the god games are established, the real world's still intact, but these are really good people who love playing games and know how to play these games and really are just the best at it. Some of the stuff they did in last episode, like one of the puzzles I enjoyed was the fact like the guy had to roll dice, but all the dice had to roll 1. There were 6 dice. They're 24-sided dice. Basically, D&D dice. What's the guy do? What's one of the other side characters that's been a part of this plot for a while? He's like, I'm gonna clean these dice. Cleans these dice, makes them shiny. They look at them, oh, they are shiny. Throws them. Does it in the first try.
Deon, what are the odds of a person rolling all ones on a set of 5, 1, 20 dice, 20 face dice?
On a D20, the odds of somebody rolling all ones
with 5 dice all at the same time.
Like literally 1 in a million.
Yeah, and they mention it. It's literally that. They say 1 in a million. They literally go, it's a 1 million thing. How'd you do that?
Yeah.
And the girl,
like there's literally a million different options.
and it's funny. One of the girls, prior before he throws the dice, goes, and the redheaded girl goes, "Oh, basically you could do it like I think she's like 120 or 1.2 million times, and you would finally get it. It would take forever. The guy does it in one shot, like that kind of storytelling. And the fact they figured out this puzzle, and the puzzle they figure out, you're like, oh wait, they built a map. They did this. They did that. It was so good to me. And here's the thing about it. I'm not usually one for that. It's like I'm not usually one to be like into gaming anime very often because they're kind of terrible most of the time. No Game No Life is usually the one exception, one of the few exceptions. Most of the times when they do gaming stuff, it's kind of like, eh. Here's the thing: you've done No Game No Life a long time, a couple years ago. You've done Shangri-La, which is basically a gaming about a open world VR game, and you've done this. I'm like, okay, what's the next one you want to do? Because I'm actually down. Because you
gotta watch Sword Art Online.
And that's the funny thing. Basically, Shangri-La is a new version of Sword Art Online. And that's kind of sad. And that's the sad part. Like they've taken the old genres and used them in new ways. And I think that's going to be the thing about this season for me. A lot of the stuff I liked just felt good. And Demon Slayer was one of those things that felt really good just because that last episode for Demon Slayer was like, the way they ended it, you're like, they really did that. They really did that. They really had Michael Muzan, as people call him, Michael Jackson for our listeners, walk out there in this like creepy, pretty much pretty much like a thriller show, but he's just walking and you hear the footsteps, chew the smoke. It feels like something out of a movie, and it's just like
that was a Smooth Criminal intro.
I'm like, okay. And he literally walks up on our head of the demon guild and goes, hi, I'm Muzan, and the demon guild says hi, his name. And then Muzan goes back and says, man, you look terrible. basically saying you don't look great. Like what? You did all that to say you don't look great. We already know that. It's just kind of like, okay, fair enough, fine. I think the thing about the season that's going to really interesting most people, this season of spring anime, there's a lot of sleepers that we talked about. Ultimately, I would tell people, out of the 5 picks that we picked, I think you guaranteed to go watch Konosuba. If you don't watch Konosuba, go watch Konosuba. It's worth your time. It is funny as all get out. If you haven't started Demon Slayer, please go start that. If you want to catch up before the castle arc, definitely worth it. And then the last thing, I think, and it's one I think we all agree on, but I think it's one that most people aren't going to watch because it's not their type of thing, Windbreaker. If you haven't watched Windbreaker, absolutely go definitely watch that. That's something. Those are the 3 I think those are the spring season you should watch. If I took out Demon Slayer, I would tell people to go watch Train to the End of the World, or even Grandpa and Grandpa Turning On Again.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
There's a couple other like sleeper ones. I'm like, absolutely. Spice and Wolf. You've never seen Spice and Wolf? My word, Spice and Wolf's fun.
I got a question. Is Ishura this season, or is that last season, and they're just releasing English this season?
Which one?
No, Ishura came out last season.
Last season.
So it's just the English coming out this season.
English coming out this season.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And Yokohama Family, that's this season?
That's this season, yes. So that and Go to the Ranger are this season.
That's
Hulu.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think Chris brought up with Yokohama Family. He asked me about this and he thought it was weird. The last couple episodes, the story's been kind of convoluted, but that's the point because they're spies. So the story doesn't have to really make sense. Outside of the fact they do tie things back together now, slightly. But the next episode is the last episode. There's 1 episode left, 13. After 13, me and Chris don't think it's gonna get season 2. But if it does, we'll be surprised.
Yeah, it just has that commonplace trope to, oh, you gotta marry the girl to save her life. Like, the Tele wedding rings, or Tele wedding rings, whatever.
Yep.
They did that, but they did it so well that, that was almost second place to the plot and theme of the show.
Correct.
And it was the main theme of the show.
But let me know y'all top 5.
It still hits you.
Yeah. Let me know y'all top 5s in the comments for the spring season. And before we get into Kaijiu number 8, episode 11, get that up. We're going to talk about these charts. These are for week 11, June 14th through the 21st. I'm going to go through these and we'll talk about them. We have Jobless at 1, went up 3 spots. Dead Alive 5, stayed at 2. Kaijiu number 8 went up 11 spots. We'll get back to that. Konosuba dropped 3 spots. Demon Slayer went up a spot. Gogo's Ranger dropped 3 spots. Black Butler dropped 2 spots. My Hero Academia went up 3 spots. Slime went up 3 spots. And Windbreaker dropped 2 spots. Deon, what do you think about this chart?
Honestly, I was really shocked at a lot of this. Kaijiu number 8 going up 11 was the only thing that truly made sense to me. And it didn't make sense to me because I appreciated the fact that it went up 11. It made sense to me because it's like, oh, they're a big shocker episode. Of course, it's going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing for me, I'm sorry, got to be Jobless being number 1. It's got to. I don't know. I still just can't get behind this Jobless train. I tried. I couldn't make it. Windbreaker dropping made sense. But what was surprising was that Slime didn't go up higher.
Yeah, Slime's in that weird spot, I think, because Slime already has that fan base, but that fan base is kind of used to Slime. And it's been an up-down season for most people because they've changed tacks a couple times with their seasons. So a lot of people have been kind of up and down with it.
And I need to catch up on Go-Go Loser Ranger because that's my surprise is that Go-Go Loser Ranger is higher than Slime and Black Butler. Black Butler hasn't even been doing that good this season. But for it to be higher than Slime and My Hero, I was a little surprised by that. Everything else, though, I mean, Dead Alive has been at the top. You know, Konosuba's not here anymore, so it makes sense. But it's like if you had to get that number one spot to anybody, I still wouldn't have chose Jobless. I would have gave it to Kaijiu before I gave it to Jobless.
Okay.
Would you have to give it to Mash other than Jobless?
Nah, Jobless got no.
Yeah, I was saying he's not doing. He's not
Mash on the list.
He's not doing that. He ain't doing that.
Kaijiu, I give it his gripes, but like it's well presented. Like the flaws are well presented.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what do you think about this top 10?
I'm gonna compare it to the other list because it's almost funny.
Okay.
So just going on the top 10 on the other list based on Anime Weekly engagements. Number 1, Jobless.
All right.
2, Konosuba. 3, Kaiju number 8. 4, Demon Slayer. 5, Spice and Wolf. 6, Jellyfish Can't Swim. 7, Slime. 8, Girls Band Cry. 7, Moonlight Fantasy. And 10, Hero.
Wow.
Now, granted, I wouldn't. I can see why. No. I can clearly see there's a lot of reasons why Deon wouldn't specifically like the last episode. Because it was messed up, especially on the day that it came out. Like, bruh. Like,
see, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's funny think about that. Chris, do you remember when Demon Slayer came out and the episode we saw on Mother's Day was about what's his name? Mom being like.
It was like better, even worse. It happened again on Easter.
It did,
and that's also when Hell's Paradise came out too. So it was like really
correct. And it's funny. People ask, do they do that on purpose? Like, no, they don't do that on purpose. And ultimately, I think somebody also said in like one of the YouTube videos I watched. One of the people I follow on YouTube, he's like, ultimately they don't. And people are like, don't follow that holiday? I'm like, they do, but in a different time period. But at the same time, you're gonna put it out on this day. People are gonna be like, that's
they know what they did.
They kind of did.
They know
that's kind of the problem. It's like, you kind of know what you did there. Hopefully not. No,
they know
what you did there.
As I go celebrate my dead father's birthday tomorrow. Yeah, they know what they did.
I will say Jobless being one kind of tells you that Jobless has gotten back to that prominence it's had, in the sense that the first season, I think.
No, wait a minute. Hold up, Brandon.
Okay, let me explain.
Wait, what?
Let me explain.
We know. Okay, go ahead.
Let me explain. The first season, a lot of people liked. The first season, a lot of people loved. The end of the first season kind of didn't give people under the first season. A lot of people loved, but the ending of the first season was kind of lackluster for a lot of people. But also, I remember the middle part of the first season was also very kind of controversial. They're like, why is this dude the way he is? What's going on? Then we get the story behind with the, her, the other guy, and everything. Jump forward to season 2 and think about the fact this season starts off very happy, go lucky. He's married Sylvie. They have this big house. They're having their first kid. Then we get Turning Point. Turning Point turns the episode upside down. Man God comes back into play. Man God's like, you have to go do this. All these things. I think with this season of Jobless, it's done two things for a lot of people. One, we've gotten back to the dungeon stuff, where they've gone through dungeons, they fought monsters, they've done that. But also, it's also retained its fan base, the people who like storytelling. That's the other big thing I think season 1 had a lot more of, was the dungeon stuff at the beginning, and it lost that at the back half of season 1. Same part of the beginning of season 2, we got a lot of story stuff, not much dungeon stuff. This ending of the season, going into the next stuff, we're getting back to that dungeon stuff. So I think it's getting back the fan base who actually cared about, like Deon will always mention, him fighting in dungeons, him doing this, not the slice of life. The slice of life is just kind of there to give you context for things.
And it's fine. I'm sorry. I don't mind the slice of life stuff if it's done properly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree with that.
Like, if you're mixing it well and blending it well, I love it. Like, Slime does it very well. You give me 12 episodes in a row of crying episodes. Like, I digress. Continue. I apologize.
No, don't apologize. Don't apologize. Don't apologize.
The only difference in within how the first season ended versus the second season is the adult context is getting more mature.
Correct. And that's the
I'll leave
thing.
it at that.
I think that's the thing that I think is drawing people back in, but also kind of keeping the old group in. Because I think ultimately the balance for this is keeping the slice of life stuff, but also doing more of the adult stuff. And like them going on missions.
Like you can tell they're trying to keep their older audience.
Correct. They don't want to lose the old audience. Because they lose the old audience, then everybody be like, yeah, just leaving out now. Leaving at the back, leaving stage left and getting out of here.
They're not going to keep the young audience. They lost them at the... Y'all know what episode they lost the young audience at.
Yeah, they did. They did. But it's also kind of like, we've also talked about this, like, where's that line? Because you want the mature audience, but you also want to keep... You want the current audience, you want your main base audience, but you also want to grab new people. So where's that line at that? For that anime and for those things, but we'll see. I mean, it's interesting to see Jobless on both those top charts. We still have one. Was that the last episode, Chris? We have one more, right?
Jobless? No, I think that's it.
That's it. Okay. So that was the end where we saw. Okay. So next week on the chart, I don't think it's gonna be. If it's on there, it's gonna drop. I think it's dropping a little bit. But
I'm fact checking myself.
I think that was it, because this is week 11. We just saw week 12. I think this next week's the last week. But it leaves us in a place where we're gonna start a whole new storyline with some weird things coming up, and those storylines are gonna have to kind of pick up fast. I don't know, but I'm also like Deon in the sense. I think Google's Ranger being where it is makes sense. Kind of weird that it's up there, but also it's over Black Butler. With Black Butler, didn't get a lot of traction. Also, it's beating My Hero. My Hero was kind of slow anyway, so we'll see how that all pans out.
So Brandon, it does have one more episode.
Okay, so I thought I did one more episode, because I think that's going to be the episode where we learn about how you're going to answer that question. Tell Sue what happened in this previous episode. So yeah, not great at all.
Another crying episode.
Yeah, probably.
No, he's doing crying. No, at least he won't be the one crying. I don't expect him to be the one crying.
He won't be the one crying. I think she'll cry, but that's going to be the other thing for another time. I don't know. After this season of Jobless, do I think Jobless taking a longer break? Absolutely. But ultimately, it's not. It's in that weird space because they could continue on like kind of like Slime did, take a couple weeks off, come back, but I can see Jobless just kind of leaving out. The rest of this like top 10, this up to the 20th on here is not too bad because like Girl Band Cries at 18 on the Crunchyroll list. Jellyfish is at 15. Spies and Wolves at 14. Chilling in Another World with My Super Cheat Powers at 13. I Reincarnated the Same Time Prince is at 11, right behind Windbreaker. Yokohama's Family is 21, which doesn't surprise me. Anything else? Irregular High School is at 25, and that was a pretty big hitter from this season. That was supposed to be kind of good. Bartender of the Gods at 28. Re Monsters at 30, which is probably where it should be after that weird last episode. What's the God's Game Play is 34, but I think God's Game Play should be higher. I ultimately think if you understand what they're trying to do with the premise, it should be higher. But that's just me. Other than that, pretty much everything else. Oh, Fable's 45.
Can't get
that's the other one.
No Game, No Life out of my mind when I think of God's Game we played, and it will never be better to me.
That's the problem. I think if you've seen No Game, No Life, a lot of people can't fix that. I've seen it,
and isn't that what I said, Brandon?
Yeah, you did. You called it. You did call that.
Those two would destroy this team in a game.
Man.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
But
the entire team, just those two, would get destroyed.
But it's also the thing where I think Chris brought it up. It's the thing of No Game, No Life setting was built where the world is games itself. The world look like all these types of games. Unlike
the world is based off of game rules.
Correct. Unlike God's Game Play is based off real world with gaming elements built into the world. So each God's Game Play is a gaming world. So it's like it's a little bit different. But it has the same kind of like premise behind it. You're still playing by the rules.
I guess it's the two main character vibe with the the supposed to be cunning and skillful. Like it's more the characters, I guess, than it is the actual show.
Correct. Yeah, we'll see what the last chart does because the last chart's gonna be interesting. The only thing on the last chart I will say, I won't be surprised if Life 5 is in the top 2. It's been in at least the top 3 most of the season, so that's one that's gonna be on there. Other than that, really this chart actually kind of did the thing I thought it would do, solidify. I do think it's interesting seeing Solo get so high, but Solo had, like Deon said, like one of the stronger episodes where it did something reveal-wise that made a lot of sense. Speaking of which, let's get into Kaijiu number 8, episode 11. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is kind of tough to watch. Because I think they do something
bro. Let him see it. Oh,
all right. Fair enough.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So in a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Gentlemen, you ready?
Go.
All right. And 3, 2, 1, let's go. Episode 11, Kaijiu number 8, Captured.
Better believe it, buddy.
I do think it's funny. He says, "I can't believe a Kaijiu was in their ranks." Yeah, I get it because you have all these people who have really super powered things they can do, but at the same time, you probably should have asked questions.
Yeah, but no kaiju has ever been seen as a human before.
That's true. That is very true.
Uh-oh. This gets number one spot for us, yes, for me.
For a song?
Ash did it last season.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, like throughout the entire season, even the episodes music.
Yes.
Like they play some good music.
The OTS for some of the episodes is amazing. It's weird how they did that so well. It's weird. It's between this and the ending. Is the ending for Windbreaker or the opening? The opening for Windbreaker I like. It's only because of the way the opening for Windbreaker. The opening from Windbreaker works for Windbreaker. But that's just because.
Yeah. Windbreaker's intro is definitely a hit. I just like the fact that the music stays consistently good from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
It makes some of these scenes better for me, honestly.
Yeah, because the music's not all over the place. It's actually like, oh, here's the song we're going to use for this, and we're going to keep that song throughout. Mm-hmm.
And I like the CGI in this. It makes it like now I want to see a live action Kaiju number 8.
Say what?
If it's done by the
CGI version.
If it's done by the same people, then I can see that.
I can definitely see it.
Yeah,
Done by the same
I don't
people.
want to see a Netflix version.
If you let the studio do it, absolutely they can do it. And that gives away the fact that each kaiju weapon is numbered because she says if you're a Kamen Kaiju, they use your body as a weapon. So that's the one telltale sign. You'll get the other in a second. You kind of had to.
And her voice Kafka is so cool.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And her voice Kafka is the Kafka we got in the first and second episode.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea who the outer voice.
I think it's the first. It's the second episode where you get the inner voice of him. But it's funny. His inner voice actually sounds like his actual voice, which is the one funny thing I will say that I don't like with Jobless, because his inner voice in Japanese is so older than the actual character itself. He's not in his inner voice.
Yeah, and that's one reason why I like watching Jobless and dub. They do a good job with that.
Which seemed like an oversight. There should be cameras in there. It's a transport vehicle.
Yeah, but she's also the head. So.
You're right, but also they're talking about something in here, and you're like, wait. And that's the confidence he needed. Nobody in the third division thinks you're not a monster. No, not the enemy.
He's focusing on that nobody.
That's how long your crime scene should be. That's it.
That wasn't even like 10 seconds. It was like 5.
Is it bad that just at this part, this anime has now made it to my top 5 list?
That's not bad at all. That's not bad. Because this episode does a really good job with some things.
The moment I've been waiting for this entire anime. Like, they all salute. Like, that's the support and the respect this man deserves.
I love the fact he asked the question. You hear him say it. Why are you saluting? I'm saluting. And the vice captain goes, I'm saluting my captain. And he says, of course you are. Why would you salute a kaiju? Whoa, he's not no kaiju. That's a man, by the way. I love the fact they do that. The double
Nah, he's a human first. There's no difference in them using the kaiju as armor and weapons.
Correct.
He just happens to utilize his kaiju power in a different way. He's still human first. Free capitalists backwards.
Ichikawa can't say a thing. He's out of it. I wouldn't think it'd be worldwide panic though, because it's a normal part of life.
No, it's not normal to them now. They don't know they don't know that.
Oh, that's not okay. That's true. It's not. You wouldn't know that he can turn back and forth, but it's a normal part of life that kaiju roam this world, roam this city. But it's
not normal that a person becomes a kaiju though.
You'll be looking at your neighbors and people at the store like, are you a kaiju? Like, it'll create racism, prejudiceness. Like,
that is true. That is very true.
It'll be bad.
Yep.
That's just like him, man. He wasn't using his full strength. I like this character.
Which one? The man?
The vice captain.
Oh, the vice captain? Oh, yeah.
He wants Kafka back so he can fight him at full strength. That's some
because he wants that rematch. He wants that rematch so bad.
Like he wanted it with the Kaiju.
Yeah.
So to know that it's Kafka, that brings things to a whole nother level.
That's some real Vegeta energy on the cool.
I want to say some words, but I'm not going to. All right, I'll say them now. Really, you found so in his heart he has a core. You don't know where the core came from. Also,
wait, I thought his core was like in his neck or under his arm or something like that.
That's the weird thing. I think that's why the X-ray seems kind of weird because he seems like he's lying. If the core's in his heart, he would be. You could just shoot his heart and he'd be dead.
But when him and Vice Captain was fighting, we seen his core.
We have. It's in his chest. That's true. He said he didn't want to lose anybody.
Hmm.
Oh, here comes the
human, huh?
Say what?
I'm gonna prove you're human, buddy.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
He just looks God tier.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love this line by him. There we
go. Because I can't wait to hear that in English.
Who the fuck you think I'm talking to? The general. Well, I don't know. Oh.
Note the music.
Like I said, those things look like the Power Glove. Nintendo made that a couple years ago.
Uh-oh. He about to be a Kaijiu himself.
Oh, the first two shots were just.
Yo, his gauntlets is fire. I need them in Elden Ring.
Wait, you wish you had a pair of those gauntlets? What the?
Ooh-wee. But you ain't gonna last until his suit overheat.
His overheater percentage would probably be so high. It would have to be 100% to overheat for him. Even then, like, he'll never get there. Yeah, your legs are missing. Oh.
Animation is fire. Boy, what?
That was my reaction when I saw it the first time, Deon. They lived on a cliffhanger like that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that animation was. I found nothing wrong with that episode.
I will say that's a you called that too, Chris. Yep, you did. Not the first. Not surprising. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode just kind of ties everything back together. But ultimately, the thing it does too is tell you why everybody's down and why everybody wants Kafka to be back. And there's 3 big scenes that I think that's gonna really, it gives you that indication really quickly. And it's just, I love the way they do this. So we'll go through this in 3 parts because I want to do the middle, or the beginning, the middle, and the end because we have the time to do it. And I'll say right now, this is probably one of the better episodes of a season, episode 11 we've seen so far this season. So this episode starts out with the top heads of the defense group are seeing what Kafka did on screen, talked about it. It's like, the bald-headed guy basically says, I've never seen a Kaijiu in our ranks before. That's kind of odd. And then one of the other guys next to the guy with the iPad goes, we need to tell the public. And he's like, no, we don't need to tell the public. You tell the public, there could be problems. We're trying to keep number 9 under wraps, and we can't even do that. Then after that, the bald head guy kind of talks back and says, so what do you suggest we do? He's looking at a scientist when this is happening. And scientist really didn't say nothing. But the head of the table is the blonde head girl's dad. He basically says, let me handle Kaiju number 8, basically. We get to the intro. The intro clicks through, one of the best intros of the season. We see Kafka just sitting there, kind of out of it, not really thinking about much. We see the bald-headed guy kind of like, yeah, it's not worth to keep him around. He should be done. But also, we kind of get Kafka kind of thinking to himself what he could do. We get the flashback when the blonde-haired girl told Kafka, hey, your number Kaiju, what they would do to you, they would use you for experiments, take your tissue and build a weapon out of you. The numbered weapon that she has, she has number 7, the axe. You learn more about that a little bit later. So Kafka kind of seeing everything into his thoughts and everything that's happened. Vice Captain and Captain walk in. Captain says you're going to be transferred. Vice Captain starts unhooking him. Kafka tries to peel with the guy. Vice Captain doesn't really work. Vice Captain just tells him to stand up. They start walking to the transport or to where they're about to transport cars and everything outside. And then you see the doors open up, light comes out. everybody's just staring at him, staring at Kafka and everything. What the purple-haired or the pink-haired girl salutes the captain thing, everything's ready for transport. Kafka flashes back to where Ichikawa pretty much helped him throughout this whole process from the beginning, all this kind of stuff. Kafka walks into the transport vehicle, about to get ready to shift off. Ichikawa stands there and says, "We'll figure something out. You're coming back to us," kind of thing. Then ultimately, this starts the conversation with the captain and the vice captain and Kafka. And basically, the conversation is basically like, I'm gathering evidence to figure out the way to get you back to the Defense Force because we can prove that you were good on the Defense Force. You did all these good things. You have all this stuff, all the stuff that you've done for us so far. You saved us, all this kind of stuff. And she starts reading him his rights about being transferred and all that. And he stops her and goes, "I'm going to still be by your side, Mina." And she said, "Yeah, I'll be waiting." He starts crying, but it's a quick, he cries for a couple seconds. We cut. We see Ichikawa, the rest of the people in the Defense Force standing, of the division standing there, facing towards the transport, finally. And then the vice captain in front. Vice captain salutes, and the bald-haired guy's like, "Vice captain, Hoshino, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm saluting my captain." And the bald guy goes, "Of course you are. You will be shooting like Kaijiu." And then the transport is taken away. I'm gonna stop right there. Chris, what do you think about this first 7 minutes and 10 seconds? This first part was so good.
They were setting the tone for this because, we knew it was gonna be somewhat serious. The fact that he revealed himself as a kaiju, and they just letting you know how big of a secret that they trying to keep it, that it's at the top heads of society or the top heads of military. So that was for me, I saw that as a world building point. Okay, so this is a very militaristic society. That's what I got from it. The second thing is that, as he's coming out and these people are his friends, are really showing that they are his friends. A dude steps out after he thought his friend didn't even want to see him. He stepped out and pretty much, like you said, told him it's gonna be all right, man. Keep your head up. So it was a nice, sincere moment. I like it.
Deon, what did you think about this first little section? Did you have the same kind of tactic like Chris, or do you have a different way of looking at it?
Man, Kafka finally got the respect he deserved. First episode when he was the pushover, a chump. He was a crybaby, but in the right way. This is the Kafka I knew we had for 7 episodes, because it was a couple episodes where I was like, he was already this guy. But man, for the vice captain to say what he said, and for him to finally get the acknowledgement from Mina, bro, this was a well played out beginning. This was great.
Oh, okay. I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, before I get to the second part of this. One, Miss Deon went blind in this episode. And here's the other thing. Deon mentioned at the end of this episode, this is probably one of the best episodes of Kaijiu we've seen so far this season. Think about the fact that he's been pretty critical about Kaijiu, and I wanted him to be, and yet he's probably thought this episode was really well done. This first part, masterful. The line I like the most is the fact that the vice captain said, the bald guy got asked vice captain, "Why are you saluting?" And he says, "I'm saluting my captain." And the reverse line is, "Of course you are. You're not saluting a kaiju." Here's the problem. That's a double meaning in the sense that vice captain is saluting Kafka, the man. The bald-haired guy thinking, "Why are you saluting a kaiju, a monster?" I love the fact they do that in a way. It's like, wait a minute. They all respect him as man, but you think he's a monster. That doesn't make much sense when he saved their lives. Let's roll into the second part. The second part of this is actually really even more interesting. The fact that we get to see him in the new facility. We hear about the cleanup. We see Ichikawa, the redhead guy, the former military guy. Everybody's sitting around talking. The girl even mentions that he saved my life. He was so fun to be around during training. The redhead guy mentions he was saved by Kafka. And basically, we have nothing we can do now because it's up to the neutralizing bureau what they do with him. And I think the green hair guy mentions that's your old bureau, right? They go telling the army guy this, and he's like, "Yeah, but we can't. It's out of our hands." And he's like, "Yeah, that's right. You're right, but it's kind of weird." Then we see the captain typing something on the computer, getting some notes ready. Like she said, she's going to try to find the evidence to make sure he can come back. She tells the lady that works in the tech room, take this and use it to get the evidence. She's kind of surprised with Kafka. She says, "Yes, ma'am, they are doing it." You see Vice Captain standing on top of some rubble, and kind of staring out. One of his men, one of the other smaller captains, comes and says, "We cleared out legal vehicles. Everything is fine." And he asks, "What are they gonna do with Hibino? What are they gonna do with Kafka?" And Vice Captain goes, "I don't really know, but I want to rematch with that man. I want to rematch with a guy who didn't use full strength. I didn't use my full strength. I want to rematch with him." Basically saying he wants another fight because he wants to see what he can actually do. Then we see the blonde hair girl about to walk into the general's office, which is her father. She takes a deep breath. She's like, "Do I really want to do this?" And then she's about to. Her father said, "Enter." Basically, she salutes and about to call him dad. Then switches and says, "General." He goes, "Hey, you need to look at this," and shows a picture of Kafka's chest X-ray, which basically shows that he has the core and the next to his heart. He's not human, which the general says. And when he says that, she's like, "I believe he still is human. I may see have something." And then he flips the script and goes, "By the way, the that's the same type. That's the same Kaijiu, the same type of thing that killed your mother." Basically, flipping the script on her. She kind of stands to attention. She's about to walk off, and now you know the truth. And she walks off, kind of not happy about her dad doing that. And then Kafka gets back. They show Kafka back in the room, and basically they're about to do some more tests. And the last little thing I really want to talk about is this last little bit where we see the conversation with the vice captain and the red-haired guy, the blonde-haired dude, the green-haired dude, and Ichikawa. Basically telling them, "You're going to be moved because our training facility is now destroyed. And ultimately, since your training facility is destroyed, you're the best rookies, and we want to get you somewhere else so you can be useful after number 9, and we'll have a number 10. Green-haired guy speaks up and goes, "Is this about what happened to Ichikawa? That we know he's number 8? And the fact of the matter is you want to just move us out of here because it's convenient?" She's like, "No." Everybody else speaks up. The blonde-haired guy, red-haired guy both go, "So why are you moving us? Why are you going to move us for whatever reason?" Ichikawa, basically with no hesitation, says, "I'll do it." And they're all like, "Say what?" And he says, "I'll do it." You're not going to, and the red guy's like, you're not going to fight back. You're not going to even listen out. "No, I'll do it." So well done. And basically after that, we see them sitting outside, kind of figuring out what they do next. They have a little heart to heart. The blonde-haired guy finally says, "You know what? I use some of my contacts to see if I can find them help. But other than that, there's nothing to do." I'm gonna leave right there. Deon, what do you think about this middle section? This middle section had so much good dialogue and so much good storytelling. What was your biggest takeaway from this middle section?
The biggest thing for me was how they humanized every person in this episode. They gave everybody an emotion. There was no side characters in this episode. There was no background for you to distract from all the dialogue. This was a reaching for hearts episode. Even with the commander, like You learn that he's stern and dismissive of his daughter, yes, but because he's hurt from the death of his wife, like you can put those two and two together. I could be thinking too deep into this, but the vice captain with his moment of I want a rematch. If that's not Son Goku energy right there, like it's not fair because he was stronger. I want to fight him at his strongest. Like that's dope. It's like Vegeta saying like, nah, I only hang around Kakarot because we fighting each other. When they bros. Like
yeah.
Even when they're sitting around in that circle and they're like, there's nothing we can do. Every person in that circle had had their life saved by Kafka more than once.
Correct.
That was a bro, my dog is gone circle. Like it made me get like a sense of reality from this anime that I hadn't been getting in a while.
Chris, what do you think about this middle section? Do you agree with Deon for the most part with this?
I completely agree with Deon. Because, bro, like, from the time they are bringing him out of his cell, like, his first homeboy steps up and he's still his homeboy. Told him why he was supposed to be locked up in rank, and he still stepped out. And then getting back in there, his homegirl stepped up, erased the fact that she was captain, told him as his friend, hey, look, he gonna get 50 push-ups for that. But it's like, but here, I'm letting you know now we are all for you. I'm even doing my part. Bro, like, it was so much like, oh my God, like, this is what you would want your friends to do for you in any given moment. Like, this is the kind of stuff that lets you know that you got some real friends. And then on top of that, as you get on to the story, just like Deon was saying, everybody's giving a piece of emotion from it. Like, just like he said, that old girl's dad was hurt by the fact that his wife, old girl's mother, was killed by a kaiju. So he has a lot of disdain. And apparently he don't give two evil. He don't care. He doesn't care about the fact that that's her friend. But even still, she still stepped out of line and called him daddy with the big eyes. It was like, I still want to believe in him. And it's like, what is he supposed to do with that? So he either gonna break or he's already doing what he's gonna do. So obviously he didn't care. And then it's like the back scenes while he's while he's locked up and these friends are still trying to reach out to connections to people. It's like, man, yeah. Black Lives Matter.
They have mentioned everything. They have mentioned everything up to this. They've mentioned everything. I'll give you two that just got to me. It's two that I don't expect. One, when the girl mentions in the circle, like Deon mentioned, the circle, and the girl's there. It's funny. She's the only girl in this group that's really had an interaction with Kafka, and yet it's not an interaction that's really kind of not anything crazy. It's kind of mundane. But even she was like, he saved my life, and he was so much fun to be around. That gives you an indication he has really penetrated everybody in the group. Secondly, and the one I think is even more serious, is when you see the green hair guy sitting up on the roof, and the yellow hair guy is talking on the phone. Two things. The green hair guy said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation." Oh no, you're good. And the green guy, the yellow guy, they said, no worries. I was trying to get some, and he asked him, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to get some connections and everything. And something I thought was interesting, I told Chris about, he's bowing on the phone to the person on the other side of the phone, which is so odd to me because you don't really see that. But he's asking for a huge favor, basically trying to save a friend. And he even says, I want everybody to be alive. That was my whole goal. And that's still my goal. And Kafka is one of us. That pretty much makes him say, hey, even though I didn't think the old dude could really do much, he's still one of us. He's still one of the people in this group. And he needs to be around for the rest of this. That is very well done to a character who's supposed to be stern and supposed to be, yes, and supposed to be like this military dude. He even tries to get contacts that he could use. That's kind of saying that everybody cares, no matter how much. Even the when the captain talks to the lab girl even smiles and goes, "Okay, I'm doing it." Salutes her, leaves. Knew exactly what she wanted, perfectly, without saying a word. We kind of know. Let's get to this back half. Like Deon said, was a beautiful animation of what they just about to show us. So then Kafka's just sitting and thinking, next thing that happens, the door opens up. And everybody's like, why the door opening up? And then you see the general and all these men walk in behind him. And the bald-haired guy goes, it's funny. The guy in the eye patch goes, why is the general in there? The general likes to do things on his own. He usually does it himself if it's something that important. So this is important. Kafka's surprised. The general's walking in. That's kind of scary. Then ultimately, the general asks to uncuff Kafka. The guy in the lab coat up in the little tower goes, "You do know that's Kaijiu number 8, correct?" And the general goes back to him. He's like, "Do you know who I am?" He's basically like, "Do you know who I am?" Uncuff Kafka, and he just does it. Really, just kind of stares up in the windows like, are you really gonna disobey an order of the general? Like, just that was so perfect. I'm like Chris for that. I want to see that in English. I want to see how they're gonna make that in English because that's gonna sound amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, who you think you're talking to?
Like literally, like you forget who I am, right? Like not crazy. So again, Koff's like he's letting me have the thing, so he's understanding. He's like he's gonna let me talk things out. Oh no. And then even his daughter surprised, like, nope, no. General is just trying to see what he can do. So he comes up at him, rips out from his like stomach area, abdomen area, and pulls out some blood and puts the blood in the little vial. Then he's like, "You're not a monster. A monster wouldn't block bullets, or a human wouldn't block bullets with a bare arms." And he's like, "I am a human. I'm Kafka Hibino." And he then basically he says, "I'm ready for the weapon." So then the guys in the lab thing get the access codes request for the weapon, and it's these 2 giant gauntlets. And these gauntlets are something out of like a video game. It looks amazing. The way when he puts them on, he gets all the power running through him. Perfect. First thing he does is pretty much punch Kafka to the moon. Once he punches Kafka to the moon, he pretty much rips off one of his arms in the process as doing that, which is kind of more insane, and just starts destroying Kafka. Kafka's like, I can't fight him. I can't attack him. I'm going to do this as a human. If I do this as a human, he will think I'm not trying to hurt him. Oh, but my suit's acting up. Why is it acting up? Oh, that's why. This is another kaiju. And we find out from the bald-headed guy, this is made from Kaiju number 2 in the 1970s that destroyed part of Japan. And once they destroyed part of Japan, once it finally died, we built the suit and arm and the weapons for the general. Her dad, he was the only man who could actually control the power. And Kafka keeps trying to dodge. The dodging's finally working, but he tries to jump away. Oh, but what's the problem? His legs are missing. Why am I? Oh, he's pulling him off. Ultimately, the kaiju takes over. The kaiju's like, I'm taking over. The kaiju takes over itself, and the general throws another punch. Kaiju catches it, and it's not Kafu catching it; it's the kaiju itself overriding Kaiju's body itself. And it screams, shatters the glass where the guys are up in the lab. Kafka's like, I'm not in control anymore. He thinks I'm a monster. I have to show I'm a human, and everything is coming off. Once again, the kaiju stares at the general, starts running to the general. The last thing we see is that he running to the general, about to do something to the general. And before you see that happen, you hear his daughter scream, Kafka Hibano. Aren't you human? You're right, you're human. And she screams out loud to where you could hear it all the way in that room. And that's how the episode ends. Chris, what you think about this back half?
Now, this back half, I'm just going to focus on this fight, bro. This fight, from the very beginning, when he unleashed this dude from the chair, it was a setup. And honestly, I thought that he was when I first saw this, I thought that he was going to be like, you know what, let me walk you out of here. But no.
That would be funny.
No. He just straight up starts shooting the dude point blank, like, bruh. And then he proceeds to rip a piece of body off of him for a blood sample. And then, dude, he made me think you got the audacity to say that you still human. Bro, this whole fight scene was just off the chain. If this is where this anime is going, I just think if you develop your story a little bit more, like let's see like what's supposed to be going on behind the scenes type of stuff. This show has a lot of potential. I'm gonna say it like that.
Before I ask Deon what do you think of the back half, I will mention this. This did get confirmed to get a season 2. So we are going to get season 2 of Kaiju number 8 down the road. So it is in production. Deon, what do you think about this back half of this episode?
Honestly, I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
Explain.
I hated it because I liked it so much.
Okay, there we go.
And I did not want to. I wanted to find a flaw in this episode so bad. But what this back half made me realize is that every episode, well, I'm going to say this first. This is episode 2 for me. This episode is episode 2 for me. It made me realize, well, maybe 3. I'll say episode 3.
Okay.
It made me realize that everything between now and him getting accepted into the exam and into the force was all just a bunch of garbled mess to push through for this moment. Why are we not able to see him train? Because he's not training, and this is why. We see he can't even control himself. He didn't attempt to do anything. He was forced to do everything. He isn't in control of himself. He's allowed to maintain himself for this moment. There's self-preservation. The kaiju inside of him is still there. This entire season has been a long prologue to this episode. Like, and that's how, season's supposed to happen, but every episode is supposed to kind of make sense and guide you there. You could literally have the first episode, the second episode when he gets accepted, and this episode, and everything else will line up. You don't need the rest of them. And it'll all still make sense.
That is a very bold claim, but I can't tend to disagree. And Chris, you said called it about 3 times while he was talking. What was that for?
Remember when you saw this episode and I told you Deon's going to take special note of that particular thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did.
About his control.
Yes, because you kept on saying, and I was like, I bet you that's a plot point.
Yeah, it has to. If they, and it's still up in the air. Yeah. It's still up. Like if they comes down and they give us some BS reason or something like why he couldn't control himself now, then yeah, we still got issues.
Yeah,
but right now,
but for now, yep.
Here's the thing with
this. I'll accept this.
Here's the thing with this back half. It's funny to me that most shows can't do this cohesive storytelling with one episode this well. And yet, like we talked about in the beginning, and even in the middle, all your major players have a reason to be involved. And all your major players have a reason to try to help our main character. Help or hurt our main character, in a sense. And ultimately, the person that got the biggest thing out of this back half was the blonde-haired girl. For me, the blonde-haired girl is the one who's been the most skeptical of what this man can do, but yet she accepted the fact that she could do this. She accepted the fact he didn't show her his power in the first episode like he could have, how he lifted that truck. She accepted the fact you didn't show it off in the end of the exam. She accepted the fact he was holding back. But now she's like, I can't see you go the way you are because you are a human first and not a kaiju. You might be weird in my book.
Did you guys catch the? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you guys catch the glimpse of realization at the end?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And here's the
she
funny
brought him back.
Here's the funny thing about this. The thing that even boggles my mind even more is if Deon's right. If you took 1, 2, and maybe 3, episode 3, and then did just this episode with it, everything up to this point makes sense. Because you really figure out what Kafka's about. He's always wanted to do this on his own merits. He's always wanted to make sure he does it without the kaiju. And now the kaiju says, I'm taking over completely, and you can't stop me. I just want to kill. That's what we do. We're kaiju. I'm going to ask for this, and I know probably the answer. Deon, what would you give Kaiju number 8, episode 11 for a rating?
Rating, and I'm only going to rate it in comparison to the rest of the anime. Because I don't feel like it's fair if I compare it to anything else or my overall standards for anime. Because it'll still lack there.
Okay.
Right?
Fair enough.
Because there's still holes and stuff. But I give this on a pass. Because in the overall rating for this season, in this anime, I give this episode a 9.2.
Wow. All right.
Oh, I was expecting that of you. Holy snacks.
All right, Chris. Then. What would you give Kaiju number 8?
Now remember, that's just in comparison to all
the rest of it. Yes. Yes. But still, that's high for you. That is high for you in comparison with everything else.
Yeah, that's probably the highest I give anything except for the solo leveling episode.
Yep.
The very first Igris episode.
Yep. Chris, what would you give Kaiju number 8, episode 11 for a rating?
Now, the very fact that this is not the last episode of the season gives me cause for pause, because I can't give it the score that I would like to give because it's not the end. However, I will glad to give this episode 9 even.
Okay. All right. And I suppose you both explained the reasons why. Here's my thing.
My reasoning why? Oh, you said you're wrong.
No, you explained. Y'all both explained your reasons why for each giving those ratings earlier, so I understand. Here's my thing. It's gonna be sad. This is what I'm about to say, and it's gonna be kind of funny. Comparing it to other animes this season, but also comparing it back to itself. Ultimately, for other episodes 11 we've seen, usually also, most episode 11s drop off. We saw that with a couple of other shows that we've been watching. The episode 11, episode 10 was the big cliffhanger climax, then drops off. Episode 11 is their climax going into episode 12. I'm going to say it, this gets a 10. This episode gets a 10. And the big reason why, here's the big thing. To me, you did two things that I don't think you could do very often and still get across emotion. You got across emotion and a person's resolve to live as a human. The fact of the matter is, we've mentioned this in the beginning, everybody had emotions about things. Everybody in the team of their division, her dad, everybody had a reason to not like him as a kaiju. But ultimately, the thing is, what they did very well, and most shows don't even do this half the time, they go back and go, and the captain gives you this. I'm going to get the reports of everything you've done for us. Literally, you can go back into the episodes and go, oh, he's done this, he's helped them find this, he's helped them done the core, he knows what these are, all these different things as a human. At the same point, you can go, he's only had to use his kaiju in situations where it was ultimately necessary. When Vice Captain was about to get hurt, he's going to turn into one. When he saved the little girl in the first episode. When he saved his co-worker. When he saved Ichikawa and the redhead dude. Ultimately, he saved everybody from the exploding of all the little kaiju monster. I think ultimately with this episode, this tells you that this story had a reason to be the way it was and still worked. Yes, there are some times where it doesn't always work out, and they kind of give you some things like, oh, he doesn't train off, he can't train and things. But Deon mentioned that. Deon mentions the fact, is it because he can't fully control it, or does he know he can't fully control it? If he can't fully control it, he doesn't going to try. But at the same time, they're making it even more interesting when they can make it fact like everybody is behind him from the third division, no matter what happens. I'm gonna make this correlation in the next episode. I'm gonna take a wild guess. Next episode, she screamed that out. It breaks his trance, but also what it does, he will slightly fight back against the general, just enough to prove the fact that he can hold his own. But also, I think his own daughter is gonna get in front of that and go, "You've already proved enough, Dad. Let him be." And then he goes back to the defense force under the supervision of the captain and the vice captain. This is one of the better episodes of Kaiju, and one of the better episodes of Kaiju this season, but also one of the better episodes of an anime this season where it really hits the emotional toll. Even to mention the fact that Deon mentions the fact that he cries, but the crying scene is like 5 seconds. 5 seconds, gets the point across, we're going back to what we're doing. Doesn't linger on it, doesn't really mention it too long, just there. I probably sound crazy, gentlemen, I'm guessing, just talking about this.
Yeah. No, I want to say yes so bad. I know how I feel about this show, but no, it makes sense.
And here's the scary thing. I think the thing is with season 2, and I think Chris will agree with this, season 2 is gonna really do a thing of like, oh, we gave you the small appetizer. Oh, here's the full course meal, season 2, where he learns how to use his powers, where the defense force helps him out, where he ends up becoming one of the strongest people in the defense force to stop Kaiju. And ultimately has another battle with Kaiju number 9. and finish that.
I do agree with it.
I feel like he's gonna go back. It's gonna be under the Supreme Commander.
Under the general?
Not the captain.
Yeah, that's the other thing I see happening. The general could take him under his wing, which would be
he's
even
gonna
more
be
insane.
the only one that can handle him if he does turn.
Correct. Ultimately, yes. But ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 61 of the Anime Dojo. We'll be back next week. Before we go, though, I have one announcement to make. So for the summer season, we kind of talked about it. We didn't talk about it in the summer season proper. But we're going to do Shy. And the other show we're going to do, which one was it? I want to make sure I get this right.
Did we say Dungeon Family? Or Dungeon People?
Dungeon People is the other one.
Or did we?
We're going to do Shy and Dungeon People.
Okay.
Shy, Deon hasn't watched. He's going to binge through that. The only reason we're doing Shy again is because Shy season 1, me and Chris loved. It was so much fun. And Dungeon People was something different.
It was an underrated season.
Yes, it was. Very much so. We aren't going to do Suicide Squad. I'll keep track of Suicide Squad just out of my own curiosity. Like I told them, never seen the movies, never really cared about the stuff, the content around it. I want to see if it does well. I'll give you after 3 episodes if I actually like it. After that point, if I don't really like it, I'll stop covering it. If I like it, I'm gonna keep covering it, kind of thing. That'll be our summer stuff, and then on top of that, news will be kind of slow during summer, so we'll keep the one episode where we do some new stuff, and then the animes. Once we get to fall, this is where we're gonna start doing this. I'll do it in the fall because it'll be easier for us. Fall, we're gonna split this up in 2 episodes. We're gonna do the new stuff on one day and the episodes on another. Probably Tuesday and Thursday, most likely. That'd be the best time to do it. So that way, if you just want to follow the episodes, you just have those on Thursday. You would have them like on Friday, and if you just want to follow the new stuff, you'll have that on Thursday, kind of thing. So that we either way to keep that separated. But this has been a fun spring season. We have 1 episode of Kaijiu left. I want to see where it ends up. And then with season 2 around the corner, in development, it's going to be a fun time to see where Kaijiu goes in the next season. But I do thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy. This will go up on Spotify right after it processes, and they'll be up on YouTube on Thursday. I do thank Chris and Deon for joining me, and I hope you for next time. See you.
Peace.
Later.